Hi, Squirrel here, and welcome to my car. This is a BMW M140i for those that are interested. Now, this is an unusual video. This is a VR180 video. So if you're watching on a mobile or a tablet, move the device around and look around the cockpit of the car. If you're watching on PC, you can click the mouse and drag to look around. If you want to watch on 3D, you can get yourself something like this. It's a Google Cardboard. Put your phone in the back and you can watch in 3D and look around the cockpit. For the very best experience, of course, if you've got a VR headset, absolutely perfect. Look around in 3D. Now today I'm taking you to a landmark, a real piece of British history. I'm just going to head down, park up, and we'll walk back. Wow, behind me is the Iron Bridge. The world's first arch bridge to be constructed entirely out of cast iron. It was built almost 240 years ago and spans the River Severn by 100 feet, approximately 50 feet from the water, and it weighs around 387 tons. It was made almost 240 years ago, recently restored and repainted in its original red colour. Let's go down and take a look and talk about how this bridge was constructed. This bridge is constructed out of over 1,700 cast iron pieces. But what does it mean when you say cast iron? The way that you make a piece is you make a wooden model of the exact size and shape that you want. You then press that into the sand of the foundry floor, remove the wood and pour in molten iron. When it sets, you have a cast iron piece exactly how you wanted it. Now there are 5 spans on this bridge. But for the longer sections, they didn't make them entirely a wooden model. What they did was they took a short curved piece about as tall as I am, about 6 feet. They attached it to a piece of string on the foundry floor, and they then drew the curve out of the sand and poured in liquid metal. So each of those arches is made up of 2 cast iron spans. Now around this area, there was an awful lot of iron ore smelting, and iron ore would come on barges up and down the river. The barges were moved by men, and the men would pull the barges with rope. And if you look carefully, you can see how over hundreds of years, the rope has etched out pieces of the iron. Now there is a downside to cast iron, and if we take a closer look down here, you'll see some of the pitfalls. So when each piece is made and they push the wood into the sand and pack the sand around it, take the sand out and pour in the molten iron. 3 of the sides, if you imagine, 3 of the sides have sand against it, but the top side doesn't. So what you get on each piece is 3 smooth sides and then a pitted side. And it's apparent on every single piece that you can see. And the reason is because this is the top side, and all the gases bubbled up from the liquid iron as it cooled. All the joints that you see are taken from woodworking. They're all mortise and tenon, dovetail joints. You can see one right here where a wedge piece of iron was driven, hammered through the hole to hold the joint into place. Now remember I said that the arches are made from a piece of string attached to wood and drawn on the sand. 4 of the arches are identical, but one of them isn't, and it's this one. This arch, when it was made, it had been raining that day and the string was wet, so it was slightly different length to the other 4. So when they drew the arch out and made that piece, when they put it in, it's slightly shorter in its curvature than all the other 4. And you can see right up there the way that the horizontal beams have to dip in to meet that arch. Such a fascinating piece of British history. Ah, there you are, Doyle. Have a little treat. This is my dog, Doyle. If you look closely at the bridge, you can see that it says, this bridge was cast at Coalbrookdale. Now, Coalbrookdale is the forge just down the river where the cast iron was actually made. And it says it was erected in the year, and that's Roman numerals, for 1779. You know that, pal? Originally there used to be vehicular traffic would go over the bridge, but in the late 1920s they limited the weight of vehicles to 2 tons, and then in 1934 they actually closed it for use by vehicles, and ever since it's only ever been used for pedestrians. In some respects it's quite fortunate that this bridge is still here. In the 50s there were plans to have it demolished. The cost of an upkeep of a bridge like this is astronomical. Because it is made out of cast iron, it is liable to rusting, and about every 15 to 20 years it has to be completely stripped back and repainted. Because of those costs, the plans were put in place to have it demolished. When these plans to demolish the bridge were filed, one of the councillors, who was deep in consideration of the plans, came down to the bridge to see it for himself, to see why it cost so much money to keep it going. And when he arrived, he saw a London taxicab. When he went over to find out why there was a London taxicab in the middle of Shropshire, it turned out that 3 Japanese tourists had flown over to the UK and taken a taxicab from Heathrow to here. And when he had a chat with them, it turned out they'd done that because they wanted to come and visit this bridge. They considered it to be an important landmark in our industrial history. After his conversation with the Japanese tourists, he was so moved that he decided there and then to save the bridge. So he came back, phoned as many people as he could, and on that basis the Iron Bridge Museum Trust, the Iron Bridge Gorge Museum Trust, was formed, which has looked after the bridge ever since and ensured that it cannot be destroyed. Now, at some point in the 50s, the bridge was particularly run down, and ever since it's had to have a number of renovations. One of the biggest renovations happened in 2017 when the English Heritage Trust spent £3.6 million completely renovating the bridge. 2017 was a very ironic year. It was also the year that the Coalbrookdale Forge closed its gates for the last time, and the workers hung their boots on the gates outside, ending 300 years of local history. Thankfully though, the bridge is intact and has been completely renovated back to its original red paint. Here's to the Heritage Trust. Right. Come on. This little guy has been very well behaved, but I think he's getting restless, and we're going to have to take him for a walk. Come on, pal. Come on. Come on. Well, I've had a fantastic day with Doyle down at the Iron Bridge, and I hope you have too. Now, if you stay watching, I've got 3 more videos coming up, VR180 experiences, 1 on a train, 1 on a tractor, and 1 in a GT3 racing car. But for now, I need to get this little chap over there for a walk in the woods. So have a great day. Come on, boy.